Devaya Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottama Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Mudirayed Nashtaprayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam. Canto 10, Chapter 8, Lord Krishna shows the universal form. Text number 6. Tvam hi Brahma Vidam Shresthaha. Tvam hi Brahma Vidam Shresthaha. Samskaran Kartum Arhasi. Samskaran Kartum Arhasi. Balayor Anayor Nrinam. Balayor Anayor Nrinam. Janmana Brahmana Guruho. Janmana Brahmana Guruho. Tvam hi Brahma Vidam Shresthaha. Samskaran Kartum Arhasi. Balayor Anayor Nrina. Janmana Brahmano Guruhu. Tvam hi Brahma Vidam Shresthaha. Samskaran Kartum Arhasi. Balayor Anayor Nrinam. Janmana Brahmana Guruho. Tvam hi Brahma Vidam Shresthaha. Samskaran Kartum Arhasi. Balayor Anayor Nrinam. Janmana Brahmano Guruho. Tvam hi Brahma Vidam Shresthaha. Samskaran Kartum Arhasi. Balayor Anayor Nrinam. Janmana Brahmana Guruho. Tvam, your holiness. He, indeed, Brahma Vidam, of all Brahmanas, or persons who understand what is Brahman. Brahma Janati iti Brahmanaha. Shresthaha, you are the best. Samskaran, ceremonies performed for reformation, because by these reformatory activities one takes second birth. One takes one's second birth. Samskarat bhaved dvijaha. Kartum arhasi. Because you have kindly come here, kindly execute Balayoho, of these two sons, Krishna and Balaram. Anayoho, of both of them, Drina, not only of them, but of all human society, Janmana, as soon as he takes birth, Brahmanaha, immediately the Brahmana becomes Guruhu, the guide. Srila Prabhupada has given a footnote to this word for meaning Guruhu, the guide. Prabhupada's footnote, I'll just read. Hear this. The Shastras enjoin Tad Vijnanartham Sagurum Eva Abhigachet Mundaka Upanishad 1.2.12. It is the duty of everyone to approach a Brahmana as the Guru. So, translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Prabhupada. Translation. My Lord, you are the best of the Brahmanas, especially because you are fully aware of the Jyotish Shastra, the astrological science. Therefore, you are naturally the spiritual master of every human being. This being so, since you have kindly come to my house, kindly execute the reformatory activities for my two sons. Please repeat this translation after me. My Lord, this is Nanda Maharaj addressing Garga Muni. You are the best of the Brahmanas, especially because you are fully aware of the Jyotish Shastra, the astrological science. Therefore, you are naturally the spiritual master of every human being. This being so, since you have kindly come to my house, kindly execute the reformatory activities for my two sons. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, says in Bhagavad Gita 4.13, 4th chapter, 13th verse. Chaturvarnyam maya srishtam gunakarma vibhagashaha. The four varnas, Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya and Shudra, must be present in society. The Brahmanas are required for the guidance of the whole society. If there is no such institution as Varnashrama Dharma, and if human society has no such guide as the Brahmana, human society will be hellish. In Kali Yuga, especially at the present moment, there is no such thing as a real Brahmana, and therefore society is in a chaotic condition. Formerly, there were qualified Brahmanas, but at present, although there are certain persons who think themselves Brahmanas, they actually have no ability to guide society. The Krishna consciousness movement is therefore very much eager to reintroduce the Varnashrama system into human society so that those who are bewildered or less intelligent will be able to take guidance from qualified Brahmanas. Brahmana means Vaishnava. After one becomes a Brahmana, the next stage of development in human society is to become a Vaishnava. People in general must be guided to the destination or goal of life, and therefore they must understand Vishnu, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The whole system of Vedic knowledge is based on this principle, but people have lost the clue. Nate vidus swartagatim hi Vishnum, and they're simply pursuing sense gratification with the risk of gliding down to a lower grade of life. Mrityu samsara vartmani. It doesn't matter whether one is born a Brahmana or not. No one is born a Brahmana, everyone is born a Shudra. But by the guidance of a Brahmana and by samskara, one can become Dvija, twice born, and then gradually become a Brahmana. Brahmanism is not a system meant to create a monopoly for a particular class of men. Everyone should be educated so as to become a Brahmana. At least there must be an opportunity to allow everyone to attain the destination of life. Regardless of whether one is born in a Brahmana family, Kshatriya family, or a Shudra family, one may be guided by a proper Brahmana and be promoted to the highest platform of being a Vaishnava. Thus, the Krishna consciousness movement affords an opportunity to develop the right destiny for human society. Nanda Maharaj took advantage of the opportunity of Garga Muni's presence by requesting him to perform the necessary reformatory activities for his sons to guide them toward the destination of life. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport. Om Ajnanatimmirandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Kauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Mukam karoti vachalam pangum langhayate girim yat kripatamaham vande Shri Gurum Dinatarinam yat kripatamaham vande Paramananda Madhavam yat kripatamaham vande Shri Chaitanya Ishwaram vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindubhya evacha Patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Very interesting incident here in the 10th canto of the Bhagavatam. That suddenly one day, Garga Muni appears in the house of Nanda Maharaj. And Nanda Maharaj recognizes Garga Muni not just by his externals, but also by his inner consciousness. That's why in this verse he's telling, Tvam hi Brahmavidam Shreshtaha. You're the best of the Brahmanas. Why is he telling this? Because you are fully aware of the Jyotish Shastra, the astrological science, samskaran kartumarhasi. This fact that Garga Muni is fully aware of Jyotish Shastra was mentioned in the previous verse. Jyotisham ayanam sakshat yattad jnanam atindriyam pranitam bhavata. You have prepared a perfect book of knowledge of the astrological science. That's what Nanda Maharaj has mentioned in the previous verse. So in this verse he is telling, because you are expert in this astrological science, you are the best of the Brahmanas. And here, the knowledge of astrological signs, how does it make one the best of the Brahmanas? Because, as was explained in the previous purport by Srila Prabhupada, that the astrological science is useful for guiding human beings towards their ultimate destination in this human form of life. Why? Because in human form of life, it is a junction point. A human being can either elevate himself or remain in the same level of consciousness as a human being, or can degrade himself to go to the lower species of life. So human life is very risky if people are not aware what is my destination of life. That's why Srila Prabhupada many times points out, modern civilization, people are leading an aimless life. Aimless in what sense? That they do not know what is their ultimate destination. They do not know. So human life is very special because only in this human form of life one can actually understand who am I, and thereby one can understand one's ultimate destination is a very, very, very glorious situation. Eternal life in association of Krishna, the Supreme Lord, the topmost well-wisher. So this understanding is not possible without proper guidance. And that guidance can be given to human beings in society only by a learned Brahmana. Here, when Nanda Maharaj is telling Brahma Vidam Shreshtaha, Brahma Vidam means those who know what is Brahman. The lowest level of knowledge of what is Brahman is that I am spirit soul. But one who is properly learned understands that not just I am spirit soul, every living being is spirit soul. And Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead, the supreme spirit, the supreme person, a spirit, person. We are all persons, but Krishna is a supreme person. And our goal, our ultimate destination is to actually attain complete shelter in Krishna's personal abode as one of his associates. So that is many so-called Brahmanas in this modern age are not aware. They don't know. They know some rituals, or they may even be learned in some philosophy, but their knowledge is limited to Brahma Vidam. I know what Brahmana means. I'm spirit soul. I'm Atma. So what does it mean? What is the result of having such knowledge? It mostly becomes some kind of theoretical knowledge. No application, no practical understanding, Like our schools and colleges nowadays is churning out students with very good academic qualifications, but you ask them to apply that because they're not being trained, they don't know how to apply that knowledge. They don't know how to apply that knowledge. Whereas in the Vedic culture, the training was given, education was given, not only in terms of academic knowledge, but also practical application. Like, for example, the Pandavas and Kauravas, they were entrusted to Dronacharya to train them. He trained them in the military science, not just theory, but actually how to use those weapons. How to use those weapons to actually play the role of a Kshatriya. Or a Brahmana is taught, a student is taught a Brahmanical science, how to apply that knowledge. So Brahmana should guide the society in helping them to advance towards the ultimate destination of life. That's the business of a Brahmana. If he is trained properly by a suitable teacher, then he can become competent to guide the people in general. So Srila Prabhupada says in the purport that Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Chaturvarnyam maya srishtam guna karma vibhagashu. So these four varnas, Chaturvarnyam, are actually based on guna and karma, not on janma. So Prabhupada quotes one very interesting verse, which is very rare. Rarely this verse is known, even to the big scholars. Janmana jayate shudra. By birth, everyone is born as a shudra. What is the basis of telling everyone is born a shudra? That is the verse in the Bhagavad Gita. Ichha dvesha samuttena dvandva mohena bharata sarva bhutani sammoham sarge. At the time of birth, every living being, including human beings, are born in ignorance because there's sammoha. They're completely bewildered. Bewildered about what? Who am I? They do not know. Who am I? By birth, nobody knows. So, by birth, everybody is a Shudra. Shudra means one who does not know, who am I? What is this world? What is the goal of life? Such a person is called a Shudra. So, a human being by birth is a Shudra. Finished. He might have taken birth in a Brahmin family, but by birth, what is he? Shudra. Then the next line of this verse, Janmana jayate Shudra, samskarat dvijamuchyate. What is that? Prabhupada says something here. No, he says something else, not samskarat dvijamuchyate. Yeah. In the word for meaning, he says, samskaran, samskarat bhaved dvijaha. Only by samskara one can become dvija. Dvija means one can get second birth. And what is that second birth? To actually accept a bona fide spiritual master and actually get trained up in what is the ultimate goal of life. Who am I and what is my ultimate goal of life? Samskarat bhaved dvijaha. Then, when one actually undergoes this training from a bona fide spiritual master, one progresses to become a Vipra. Veda pathat bhaved Vipra. By studying the Vedas under a learned Brahmana or a bona fide spiritual master, one becomes next Vipra, means a learned Brahmana, a learned person in the Vedic knowledge. And when this learning is complete, then application of this knowledge leads to Brahman janati iti brahmana. That also Prabhupada says in this word for meaning. Brahma vidam, persons who understand what is Brahman, because Brahma janati iti brahmana. One can be called a Brahmana, strictly speaking, only when he realizes what is Brahman, what is spirit soul. Only then he can. And that requires accepting a bona fide spiritual master, undergoing training, both theoretical knowledge of the Vedas and the application to understand who am I, what is my goal of life. So both can be actually, both kinds of training, theoretical and practical training, can be given by a qualified Brahmana or a Vaishnava. See, in the purport, Prabhupada also says Brahmana means Vaishnava. In the strict sense of the term, who is a proper Brahmana? One who is a Vaishnava, one who knows Vishnu is the supreme Brahman. Vishnu is the supreme personality of Godhead. Vishnu is the goal of life. And Bhagavatam openly declares, Nate viduhu swartha gatim hi Vishnu. Most people in the material world, generally, because they are busy with sense gratification, bahirarthamaninaha, and they are led by andhayathandai rupaniyamana. They themselves are blind, and they are led by other blind leaders, especially in Kali Yuga. There are a lot of leaders in Kali Yuga, but these leaders themselves are blind, and because they're leaders, they lead other blind people, but they're not competent to lead. They occupied the position of a leader without qualification. That's why Prabhupada says so-called Brahmanas are there in modern society, but they cannot properly, they don't have any ability to guide society. Therefore, the Krishna consciousness movement is very much eager to reintroduce this Varnashrama system into human society. The real Varnashrama system is that guna karma vibhagasha. A person is classified as a Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra based on guna and karma. Guna is the acquired nature, acquired quality by association with the gunas, the modes of material nature, one actually acquires a certain type of characteristic, develops a type of quality. And that acquired quality or nature is either sattvic or rajasic, or a combination of rajoguna and tamoguna, or tamasic. So, three qualities, four kinds of acquired nature. Four kinds of acquired nature for three qualities. Three of them are directly sattvic, rajasic, tamasic acquired nature. But there is one more between the rajasic and tamasic natures. There is a mixed rajasic and tamasic nature that's called Vaishya nature, or Vaishya Swabhava. So, Brahmana Swabhava is sattvic nature, Kshatriya Swabhava is rajasic nature, Shudra Swabhava is tamasic nature, and in between the Kshatriya and Shudra, rajasic and tamasic, is this mixed rajasic and tamasic is Vaishya Swabhava. So all the four are different kinds of conditioning in this human society, but still, if their nature is sattvic, they are eligible to actually get trained up as a Brahmana. And if nature is rajasic, they are eligible to be trained up as a Kshatriya. And their nature is rajasic and tamasic, then they can be trained up as a Vaishya. But if they are tamasic, ordinarily they cannot be trained at all for understanding what is the ultimate goal of life. They cannot be trained to understand the ultimate goal of life. But the exception is, if somebody is fortunate to receive such training under a Vaishnava, a qualified Vaishnava, then anybody can be trained to understand the goal of life is Vishnu. And that is the position of Srila Prabhupada. He is a qualified Vaishnava. So he can guide everyone in human society towards the ultimate destination, Krishna or Vishnu. Swarthagati, our ultimate self-interest, is Vishnu, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, such a person is called Vaishnava. Vishnu Yasya Devata. One whose worshipable Lord is Vishnu, such a person is called Vaishnava. There's a definition for everything. So, because people don't have a proper qualified Brahmana to guide them, the Krishna consciousness movement is competent to give guidance to the bewildered human society, less intelligent people, to actually help them understand the ultimate goal of life is Vishnu. And here the description is, or rather the statement by Nanda Maharaj is, since you are the best of Brahmanas, you are naturally the spiritual master of every human being. Brahmana is able to guide Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra. Whoever has got whatever acquired nature, all of them require guidance by a qualified Brahmana. And Garga Muni is a qualified Brahmana. Therefore, because Nanda Maharaj recognizes him as the spiritual master of all human beings, therefore, since you have kindly come to my house, kindly execute the reformatory activities for my two sons. Actually, if you remember, in the beginning it was described, at the time of Krishna's birth, Nanda Maharaj had invited learned Brahmanas, and the birth ceremony was performed. Birth ceremony is performed. So why is he telling, kindly execute the reformatory activities for my two sons? He's particularly telling here, samskaran kartumarhasi, kindly perform the reformatory activities for my two sons. Because Garga Muni is not only a learned Brahmana, but he is a pure devotee. He is a Vaishnava, Brahmana Vaishnava. Such a Brahmana Vaishnava can actually perform the samskara of initiating someone into Krishna consciousness. Not just merely study some Vedas, either the part of the Vedas which describe some rituals which is to be performed by human beings, or the part of the Vedas which describes something about Kshatriya Dharma or Vaishya Dharma. Not that. Vaishnava can guide, can initiate, can teach how to become a Vaishnava. How to become a Vaishnava. So that is the position of Garga Muni. And how is Nanda Maharaj able to recognize? A qualified Vaishnava can be recognized either by another qualified Vaishnava or by somebody who is guided by a pure devotee, spiritual master. If we understand Nanda Maharaj is a pure devotee, because he is a pure devotee, he knows who is a pure devotee. Because he himself is a pure devotee. So he knows how to recognize another pure devotee. Or if somebody has got guidance of a pure devotee, spiritual master, then under the guidance of a bona fide spiritual master or a pure devotee spiritual master, one can learn what are the qualifications of a Vaishnava, how to recognize a Vaishnava. Therefore, Srila Rupa Goswami in Upadeshamrita says, in the 5th verse, he says that who is a Uttamadikari Vaishnava? He says there are 3 categories of Vaishnavas. Kanishtadikari Vaishnava, Madhyamadikari Vaishnava, and Uttamadikari Vaishnava. So Uttamadikari Vaishnava, he says, is one who is free from the propensity to criticize others and who is 24 hours engaged in Krishna consciousness. He is a Uttamadikari Vaishnava. So one can recognize by qualifications, by qualities. So if I am not a Vaishnava, then I don't have the competence to recognize a qualified Vaishnava by my own. No. Then I have to be guided. But the guidance also can be given by another qualified Vaishnava. Because only qualified Vaishnava knows who is a proper Vaishnava. So, because Nanda Maharaj is actually a pure devotee, he recognized Garga Muni also as a Vaishnava. Therefore, he's telling Garga Muni, please initiate my two sons into Krishna consciousness. So, this particular samskara is a special samskara. It's not a regular, ordinary samskara. Ordinary samskara is for just, what is your livelihood? What is your means of livelihood? What are the different activities meant for your welfare in general? Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya. So that even somebody who's not a Vaishnava, but is a learned Brahmana, not yet a Vaishnava, then he can also teach that. But if somebody wants to understand what is the ultimate goal of life and also wants to learn how to progress towards that ultimate goal of life, then they require the guidance, the shelter, the training from a qualified Vaishnava. I'll stop here. Antarat Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. The Prabhupada ki jai.